My personal struggles in Japan. In this video I will talk about my struggles in Japan. Take it with a grain of salt because I really like to live in Japan, but as everywhere else in the world there are always some struggles you have. This is solely my personal view and maybe somebody else will experience this differently. Moin moin, my name is Martina. I'm living in Japan. Japan is my home because my husband is Japanese. As you may know, I am from Germany. I grew up in the north of Germany and met my husband in Singapore. At that time I was working for approximately 10 years in Singapore. So I was a little bit used to the culture in Asia. However, I think I was not prepared for Japan. Japan is a different story. I am not a manga or anime fan and I didn't study Japanology. So I basically had no idea what I was going to experience. I just fell in love and went to Japan. So my first struggle is learning Japanese. I'm not very talented in languages. But for me, it's no choice. I have to learn the language. For those who might not know it, I lived from 2006 to 2007 in Japan, 1 year approximately, and had 6 months Japanese lessons. After that, we went to Dubai and came back in 2010 and lived until 2013 in Japan, mostly in the German community because my kids went to the German school Tokyo Yokohama. At that time I just had no time to learn Japanese. It was I learned privately, learned here and there some phrases, but really I couldn't learn because I just didn't have the time for it. Additionally, there was a big earthquake in Japan in 2011 and I had to bring my kids to Berlin and they went to the bilingual Charles Dickens School. Yes, and in 2013 we went to New Zealand. New Zealand was very eventful, a beautiful country, and again I didn't learn Japanese. Just kanji a little bit on the side, but nothing big. Japanese husbands, or my husband is a Japanese salaryman, they work a lot. So work is first, family is second. I would say so. So it feels like it, but on the other hand, everybody has to work. So in New Zealand, he had more freedom than here in Japan. Basically, he is every evening 2 hours at home. And in these 2 hours, we have dinner. He will bath and then watch the news. So that's about it. And he needs to relax. So I came back in 2017 and started learning in 2018 with a private teacher. That's about my story. Beside that, I try to find tandem partners. It's impossible. There is an app, it calls HelloTalk or HelloTalkie, something like this. Basically 12-year-old boys talking to is saying, "Oh, you're so beautiful." So it's like, seriously, no. I tried to find a tandem partner. I couldn't find any. And this is now 2 years. Yeah, I would say so. A lot of cities in Japan are offering language classes provided by the social service or something like this. This is great, but the moment a guy shows up, they are treated like 90% and you get treated 10%. I had the feeling I was not treated the same, and left, and decided at that point, hey, why not get a private teacher who has only time for you and he will teach you. And this is going actually very well. However, when I go out and I try to speak to Japanese to people, I always get an English answer. Or in some cases, and that's the latest case, what just happened 2 weeks ago, which was so extreme. I mean, so I got an implant. I will make a movie about it another time. Great dentist, everything perfect. Perfect service. So perfect. When I called to get an appointment, I got transferred to a German-speaking accountant. And you have to know that I called and I spoke Japanese. The woman on the phone replied to me English and then transferred me. I didn't know at that time that they have a German-speaking service. This is my dentist for 13 years. So this was new to me. In the past, I always spoke English. I tried to speak Japanese to them, but they always stick to English. So I didn't want to make them uncomfortable telling them, hey, I want to speak Japanese to you. So it is a very delicate situation telling somebody, please, can we speak Japanese? And how to convince them. So what happened is the typhoon happened. We had no electricity. The highway was closed and I had the first appointment on that Tuesday. So I didn't go, and calling doesn't make sense because there was an answering machine. Called later and said, hi, I want an appointment. Sorry that I didn't come to my appointment because of this and this and this. I was transferred to the German lady. And if you don't know German communication, we are very sarcastic. So I said, oh, I would like to have an appointment next week, Tuesday in the morning, or another day in the morning. I do not have time in the afternoon. This woman said to me, oh, he doesn't have time, and anyway, you didn't show up this morning. She didn't even ask me why I didn't show up. I was very offended about this. Not only, I was first really angry that I got transferred to a German speaking, also I spoke Japanese, but then I got really angry because this woman suggested that I didn't take my appointment seriously and didn't even ask. This is a typical German reply. I said, well, when is the next appointment? And she wanted to give me 3 weeks later or 2 weeks later an appointment. This was an urgent appointment because it's only 1 week. The doctor wanted to see me because the implant is just in and he wanted to check if everything is fine. Again, she replied again in this sarcastic way, or basically there is no appointment and you should have, she didn't say you should have come, but you didn't come this morning. She repeated this. I was like, at that point, thought, no, you know what? I will hang up and call another time and will speak to them in Japanese. So I said, oh, sorry, let me call again, and hung up. So I called then. I was really frustrated and it took me a week to call again because I was thinking how to explain them that I want to speak Japanese, how to do this. I came up with the idea to say, excuse me, can I speak Japanese? I'm able to speak Japanese. And if this doesn't work, I could say, I'm learning Japanese, can we try? Yeah. So I called again. And I said I would all in Japanese again. Moshi moshi, Takano Martina desu. Yoyaku onegai shimasu. Shika no implant, no? And she answered again in English and said, 1 moment, please. She didn't say she would transfer my a call, but 1 moment, please. And you could hear how she was looking for a number. And I said, I do not want to be transferred. I said in that moment, I speak Japanese. And she was like, I really thought, oh, she will push a button soon. I said, I don't want to speak German. And then she stopped, and you could hear she was unhappy about this. It was, I don't know what she did at that moment, but you could hear it. There was a silence. And then I said, I'm learning Japanese. And then she started in English. She said, yes, okay, next week. And I said again, let's speak Japanese. And she answered again in English. It was three replies in English. And then finally she started in Japanese. But then it was so fast. You could feel she was unhappy about the situation. I have no idea why, but my husband said she wanted to show that she speaks English to her colleagues. Anyhow, she spoke like a machine gun. It was hard to understand. So I just repeated. I managed somehow, but I repeated, said, I would like to have an appointment next week in the morning. And then she said, he is in Germany and da-da-da-da-da. I said, when is the next free appointment? It was not the proper Japanese. I said something like, Sugi ni himana yoyaku arimasu ka? You don't use the word hima, but well, this is the best word I could come up with. And then she finally gave me an appointment. It was a Friday, and so, but I couldn't follow with the time. Yeah, then she repeated just the time, and I thought that's very nice of her. These are so frustrating, unbelievable. Or you go to Starbucks, you speak in Japanese and they answer in English. Or you go, I don't know, there are so many. There are so many examples, I don't know. And that's something you have to pick yourself up every time when this happens, at least me, especially in the last year, because I feel by now I should speak proper Japanese, but I can't. And everybody else can, apparently. Not me. Anyhow, I can communicate from my side, but because I do not have any interaction with Japanese, except my husband maybe, I can, most of the time, it's very hard for me to understand the reply, because it's not textbook, it's just something else. Yeah, that's one of my biggest struggle in Japan, learning the language. Totally underestimated that, because I lived so long in Singapore and English was always fine. You didn't need to learn Chinese or Malay, and I didn't want to, by the way, also. Not that I don't like Chinese, but it was not necessary, yeah. I completely underestimated this part of Japan, or this part of our marriage. Because if you think about it, when one of us maybe has to go to hospital or is unable to talk or anything, how to communicate? That's a huge problem. Yeah. So this video is already 13 minutes long, so I will stop here and will tell you at another point about my struggles in Japan. I'm not so sure if I do this again next week, but maybe in 2 or 3 weeks, because it's only talk. I think it's a little bit too much, but I really wanted to talk about it, because maybe also the other side of Japan might be from interest for some of the viewers. Yeah, and thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, and I see you next week Thursday. Bye. If you want to know more about my struggle, please comment at this video.